The Italian Americans in Connecticut built a lot of this state. They use their hands, and that's not all they use their hands for either. Some of them put them up as a prize fighter. Made a lot of history that way, too. News 8's Eric Dobratz went out to find out, talk to an author who literally wrote the book on Italian Americans boxing in Connecticut. Take a look.
Meet Rich Biondi, a Branford High School social studies teacher and track coach. The North Haven native loves teaching and coaching, but if you want to see him get really fired up, talk about boxing, specifically Italian boxers from New Haven.
I never really thought I would write a book, but I did it.
Actually, 2 books. Pugilistic Paesani, a concise history of Italian and Italian-American boxing champions, and a supplement called Elm City Italians, Italian-American prize fighters from New Haven.
I interviewed over 400 boxers, managers, trainers, family members.
Biondi's love of boxing goes back to his childhood and watching boxing with his grandfather.
On Saturdays, he had Wide World of Sports, and I would watch fights with him. And whenever a fighter's name ended in a vowel, we were definitely rooting harder.
So he started this project to honor his grandfather. Over 15 years, he researched and pored over family histories. But you can't just walk into a library to learn about Italian-American boxers from New Haven. You've got to find people from the neighborhood.
Okay, right now we're at the St. Andrew's Society on Chapel Street, which was started by immigrants from Amalfi, Italy in 1900. So I started my journey by walking into these societies and asking men for their information.
Men like longtime family friend Louis Lamberti, also known as Donald Lambert, a club fighter who fought probably 1,000 times as an amateur and was 25-5 as a pro. Lamberti, almost 86 years old, fought for one reason.
I didn't want to work.
Felix Del Giudice grew up in Fairhaven. His uncles Johnny and Eddie Campo were legendary fighters back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like many others, boxing was a way to pay the bills.
Boxing comes from poverty. People don't have an education, so the first thing they do, they use their dukes.
And although boxing's heyday in New Haven was a half a century ago, you can still find remnants of what was.
We are at Anastasio's restaurant in Worcester Street. This photo is of Frankie Gans, who was a club fighter from Worcester Square. He would fight typically for a wristwatch during the Great Depression.
After finishing this project, Biondi said not only did he learn a lot about boxing and his Italian heritage, he learned a lot about himself.
Just like with the world champions I interviewed, I'm one of theirs, so they took me in. I'm one of their own. They took me in because my last name is Italian. It makes me feel really good.
I'm Eric Dobratz, News 8.